Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got another very interesting combo to try out, and it's one that several of you guys have really wanted to see us try, and I definitely want to see what it can do as well, because we should see some really impressive results from today's pattern, because we know both the shell and the choke combo are great performers on their own. But as for those shells I brought here today, I got out some more of these, the new Winchester Longbeard TSS shells. They are a 12 gauge 3-inch 2 3/8 ounce payload of TSS 9 shot, moving about 1100 feet per second. We've tested these new Longbeard TSS 12 and 20 gauge shells a couple times now, and they are definitely some very good performers, but they aren't cheap. One of the 12 gauge boxes of 5 rounds is right about $70, and I've even seen some people asking $80 or $85 for a 5-round box, which is pretty ridiculous. Hopefully the price will come down eventually, but for now they're not cheap. But we know there's some fantastic performance shells so far, so we'll see what they can do through today's choke combo. And as for today's setup, I brought out my Remington 1187. It has a 28-inch barrel, and for a choke, several of you guys wanted to see this one, which is the Kicks Gobblin Thunder 655 constriction. So we're tightening it up just a little bit. We've tried those Longbeard TSS 9s through a 660, I believe it was, a couple weeks ago, and they did great. So what happens if we tighten it up just a little bit more? I have a feeling they should do pretty well, since the other regular lead Longbeard shells typically do fantastic through this choke as well. So we'll see what we can get out of a little bit tighter choke today. So as for today's test, everything is the same as usual. I've got the turkey paper set up at 40 yards, and I've got the chronograph so we can get our velocity. So let's get you guys a view of everything and take the shot and see just what the new Longbeard TSS 9s can do through a little bit tighter of a choke in this Kicks 655. I expect to see some pretty nasty results, but we don't know until we try it, so let's head over here and see what we can actually get for a pattern. Alright, so that shell gave us 1114 through the chrono. The boss claim is 1100, so we're pretty much right there at where we should be seeing. And so far, these Longbeard TSS shells have been floating low to mid 1100s, between like 1110 and 1140. So we're right where we should be and right where we typically are. So looking perfect for velocity, but what kind of a pattern did they give us down at 40? Let's go check it out and see what we got. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. And I'm honestly pretty surprised that we hit just a little low and left, because that choke combination typically hits right dead on the money. But our pattern is definitely a little bit interesting. We have an absolutely deadly core area down there, without a doubt. I mean, that is a lot of shot right there in a 10 or 12-inch circle. But we also had this big, just sporadic plume of shot off the top left corner up here. So it kind of looks like a big slash of shot on the paper rather than one big nice round pattern. So definitely a little bit interesting. We did also see a couple of flyers over here off the right edge and stuff, which isn't too surprising. We typically do get a couple of flyers out of that choke regardless of what shell we run through it, but we still have an absolutely deadly pattern right there in the middle. If we centered that up a little better, that would absolutely be a dead bird all day long without a doubt. But that one big swath of shot over here off the left is definitely a little bit interesting. Did it come from being maybe just a touch over constricted? Possibly so, which could lead to why we were a little low and left on this pattern. If we kind of had a little bit of a jam up right at the end of the choke there, to where something snagged or whatever, it could have kicked the wad just the tiniest little bit sideways. It's a possibility anyway, but still a very nice pattern. Just not nearly as uniform of an overall spread as what we have been seeing out of these. But once again, I'll bring you in here close to this core, because I mean, that is just a ton of shot. And what you see right there on your screen, that central 12 inches or so, is beautifully even like we have been seeing from these shells. So once again, they really do throw some very nice cores. I just don't think we found quite the right choke in our couple of tests yet to really give these the best pattern they could possibly get. Now, of course, we're nitpicking at this point, because that is a devastating pattern all day long. But we've tried them through a 660, we've tried them through a 655, so So now I think we need to try them through a 665, maybe a 670 or something, and see what they do with the little bit more open constriction as well. Because 2 3/8 ounce worth of shot is a lot of pellets for going through a tighter choke. So they might really like the 665 to 670 range. But we're just going to have to continue to test them and see. Either way, still a very devastating pattern for today, but I don't think it's the perfect choke combination for these shells either. It's clearly more than good enough to hunt with all day long, but I do think we can still get better. And for a $70 box of shells, I think we should be getting better out of them as well for that kind of price. Okay, and here's the wad from that shell. It's the same ones that we typically have been seeing in the Herder's TSS shells, which are also made by Winchester, so it does make sense that they use the same components. You can see we did have a couple little tears up here at the very top corner of the wad, which is not at all unusual for going through a Kicks choke, regardless of what we send through it or what constriction it is. But other than that, there's no big rips, tears, pinholes, anything like that. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing stuck down in there. So I think the wad did what it was supposed to do, but you can see these two petals over here are a little bit more open than the other two, which could be why we saw the pattern kicked a little bit off to the left with that little bit of a wave of shot off the left side. It's minimal, but it could have made the difference, I suppose. Either way, the wad still looks very much normal for today. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that pattern right there? That is absolutely a devastating pattern all day long. If we had that centered up, I mean, it would just be a big bright yellow splotch in the middle of that turkey's head. So it is absolutely devastating all day long. But it's definitely not as uniform as what we have seen from these shells previously as well. So they might just prefer a little bit more open of a constriction, like 660 to 665 or something like that. 2 3/8 ounce worth of shot is a lot of pellets going through a tighter choke. So still, absolutely a very usable and very deadly combination, but I don't think it's quite the perfect combination for these shells either. So I guess leave all your thoughts in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you surprised one way or the other? Have you gotten to test any of these new Winchester Longbeard TSS shells yet? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? And what other chokes and setup combos do you want to see us run these shells through? I don't have a ton of them because they are so expensive, so I want to make sure I'm testing them through chokes that you guys want to see us run them through. So let me know all that down below. At the end of the day, we can't complain too much because that is still a very nice looking pattern, but for the price, I definitely think we should be getting a little bit better, or at least a little bit more consistent of an overall spread as well. So we're just going to have to try them through a bunch of different combos and we'll find out what they like. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like to. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it. So I'll see y'all in the next one.